What's happening, guys? Welcome back to this video. Today I'm actually going to talk about how to move your photography business overseas. Now, even if you're not a photographer or you're a business owner, this still definitely applies to you. You can actually use these tips. It doesn't have to be just for photography. Being in another country, from obviously moving from Australia to now London after 6 months, I've realized a lot about my journey and how it's actually helped me in terms of making sure that I'm not falling too far behind and actually getting clientele, being from a brand new city where I really just don't know anyone. So without further ado, let's just get straight into the video. And as always, if you guys do enjoy this, make sure to hit that like button, comment down below, let me know what's your favorite part or favorite tip, and subscribe if you haven't with the bell icon on so that you guys stay up to date with more weekly videos. All right, tip number one. Overall, I'm just going to categorize this as you need to be proactive. Being proactive is incredibly important, especially when you know the move is coming up, albeit you've decided a year in advance, 6 months in advance, or 3 months in advance. It doesn't really matter. Being proactive is really going to make sure that you're getting on top of, the entire game, being really early to make sure that when you get to the country, you can start essentially getting in clients and booking in work as soon as possible. Okay, cool. Tip number two, Instagram. More specifically, changing your location to the desired area you'd like to live in. Now, on my Instagram, you'll probably realize it no longer says Sydney wedding photographer, it says London wedding photographer. Now, the reason for that is purely for people to actually find me. So it has obviously my business name, but right underneath that is the actual words that I would believe people would type in when people are looking for wedding photographers within my area. Now, that also could have been Asian wedding photographer, or it could have been Indian wedding photographer, but you want to make sure that you have the location specifically within the area that you're actually moving to. So if you're moving to London, or if you're moving to Australia or any other place in the world, make sure your location is in the Instagram bio so people can actually find you. It's pretty simple stuff, guys. It's not complicated at all. Tip number three, sponsored location targeting posts. One of the things about Instagram, if you haven't already noticed, is you can take a post and sponsor it within a specific location towards a very specific audience. So what I ended up doing was, several weeks before I ended up flying out, I started taking a photo and I advertised it within London, and I put a budget behind it. I made sure that I targeted, either men or women within a particular age bracket that have certain interests that align up with my page so that they could find me. And then whenever inquiries did come through, I will then start telling and informing people that, hey, I'm actually on my way to London and I'm moving there well before your wedding, so we'd definitely be acquainted by then. What this does is it just enables you to get a kickstart on things, to make sure that you're not really, going on the back foot, and at least you're taking the initiative to be proactive and educate your market that, hey, there's a new guy in town, I'm here, I'm ready to service you guys for your wedding needs. Bookings are available, send me an inquiry. The good thing about Instagram is that you can choose how long you want to actually sponsor things for. Now, I put a daily budget of something between $5 to $10, and that's pretty minimal. I know a lot more people that goes above and beyond that. You want to make sure that you're being very specific in the Instagram section of your actual post to make sure that you're targeting the right locations, the right people, so that at least you can get noticed. Tip number four, and you can do this again well before you've actually arrived in the country, is adjusting your website. Now, this is super important. The reason for that is for SEO purposes. So what I ended up doing here was I did a complete redesign of my website for really specific key AdWords. Now, what this means is that you want to add words within your website to make sure that people can easily, organically find you. If you check out my website, you'll basically see that I have a list of cities that I can service, and that's also repeated a few times here and there. I also very evidently write London wedding photographer, so at least people know that I'm based in London and not in Australia. And I make sure that those words are repeated, but also show that I'm evidently based there. What Google does is it actually recognizes you, so when people type in such keywords such as South Asian wedding photographer, Indian wedding photographer, UK wedding photographer, Punjabi wedding photographer, Pakistani wedding photographer, anything along those lines, and then have a location, Google will start analyzing the fact that, oh, okay, there's a person here that's actually after a wedding photographer, and there's a website that matches these key descriptions. Now, again, bear in mind, although I've made my website ages ago in Australia, versus someone who is already in the UK, naturally Google's going to favor the person currently living here, especially if they have reviews, and then they're organically always going to pop up much before you. Which brings me to the next point, Google Ads. Now, this is super important because if you are finding that your website after being updated still doesn't have the traffic that you really need, you should probably start looking to Google ad campaigns and seeing if you can put a budget similar to Instagram behind Google so people can actually find you. Now, it works in the exact same way in terms of typing in an area, putting in key AdWords, and having a daily budget that allows you to spend over a period of time to help people find you. Try and see what actually works for you, and you want to make sure that every time you do a sponsored post, be it on Google or even on Facebook with targeted ads, you want to make sure that you look at these results daily and weekly to assess, are they actually working for you, and measure up these metrics with your website data. So I use Wix, and through Wix I can actually see how many inquiries I get, where these people are coming from, what platform is also working. So sometimes you can trial your Instagram versus your Facebook versus your Google ads and see which one of the three actually work. Bear in mind, you could be everywhere if you have the budget, and in that case, at least you're tackling different areas all at once to get the most out of your entire move before that even happens. Tip number 6. Now, this is really interesting if you've actually moved to the country, and only really applies there, but you can at least prepare and plan these in advance as well. And that is doing stylized shoots within your desired location. Now, being in London, it's been several months since I've been here, and I've been fortunate enough to DM a shit ton of people in terms of doing collaborative stylized shoots. What this actually does is a few things. One, it actually helps vendors to find you, which word of mouth is incredibly helpful, especially within the industry as a wedding photographer goes. But also that content that gets put out is also going to be seen by other people within the local area. So I did a photo shoot here with Untitled. Now, it wasn't a bridal campaign by any means, but she was an influencer who lives in London, who is well recognized and has a great following within her industry. Now, overlapping with that as a South Asian portrait photographer is definitely a key thing here. So I was able to take her photos, put them online, and I've had genuine people come up to me say, hey, by the way, I found you because you did a photo shoot with Untitled and we really liked your content, let's have a chat. Doing stylized collaborative shoots are really important because at least it allows you to create content within a local area and capture that audience. Now, most often not, these are going to be free, so don't, unfortunately doubt yourself and go, oh, I'm going to be doing free work. You need to put in the time and effort to actually create this content and advertise within your area. Otherwise, it's going to be really difficult if you're only ever going to want to do paid shoots. Again, nothing wrong with that, but this is what works for me, and I'm just giving you these tips. All right, so the next tip is you want to take the time each night and start DMing local vendors and suppliers within your area so that you can get a front head start before you move. But what do we actually DM these people? Now, for me, it was very particular. I would say something along the lines of, hey, my name's Karthik, I'm from Australia, I just moved here, I'm a South Asian wedding and portrait photographer, and I'd love to work with you. I would then go on about saying what I wanted to do, if I wanted to create a stylized concept shoot, or I would just open up the conversation to see, hey, do you have any ideas that you'd like to explore? Now, when I did this, I would often find that people would say, okay, great, I'll keep you in mind, or it would actually eventuate into a genuine collaboration, which may or may not eventually suit my needs, but at the same time, it's content that someone will find. I've done plenty of shoots in London so far that I know will definitely not make my feed, probably won't even make an Insta story or two, but that person is going to advertise this content and it will definitely help them to promote their work, but also someone's going to see these further. I've done a lot of catalog shoots since I've been here, and unfortunately these aren't things I would put on my Instagram, but they are also found and recognized by potential brides. So DMing 100 people honestly works for me. Now, I set myself a daily goal of DMing 20 people a day. And that was definitely time consuming, but hey, if you're a fan of Gary Vee, then you know that he's a big advocate for sitting there and putting in the effort to actually, create these organic conversations and see if people are interested in working with you, because what's the worst that's going to happen? You're just going to waste a bit of your time each night, which you'd probably be spending on Netflix anyways, or you're actually going to have a conversation with someone that is beneficial towards you and your industry and the content you want to create. So you may as well just do it and just see what goes from there. The type of people that I remember DMing were a combination of social media influencers, which are really big in London, clothing vendors, hair and makeup vendors, henna artists, wedding planners, venues, food caterers, and that was pretty much it. I think those were the main vendors that I'd actually reached out to each time. Some of them were kind enough to respond to me instantly saying, well, we've never seen your content, so that's a great thing and you bring a really fresh perspective. So I think that kind of helped for me. Another tip is you want to make sure that you DM anyone that follows you straight away. I got this advice on TikTok of all places, and it was really cool because what ended up happening was I would literally just have this one message that I would copy and paste that, and it would say, hey, thanks so much for following me, I really appreciate your time. I'm new in town and I was wondering if you knew anyone who'd be interested in a South Asian wedding photographer. The reason as to why I wrote, did you know anyone, or would you happen to know anyone who'd be getting married or something along the lines of that, is it takes the pressure off them, first of all, by asking if they knew anyone. But it also means that they have the ability to frame the conversation to themselves if they need to. So at least it's an option there. People are funny, they love to talk about themselves, and when you give them an opportunity to be like, hey, I'm here to serve someone that you might know, most people end up going, actually, I'd like to talk about what I would like because I have followed your content and I might need your help. And believe it or not, one of the 4 weddings I ended up booking was actually through messaging someone who literally followed me. I've shot 2 weddings last year just on the back of me actually arriving to London. One of them was in Portugal and another one was here locally within London. Funnily enough, that person was actually a hair and makeup artist, and I had messaged her saying, hey, I'd love to shoot some content for you or do a collaborative shoot with any of your clients. Let me know if you're interested in having a chat further. Kind regards, Karthik. What was really interesting is that person came back to me saying, thank you so much for reaching out to me. I'm so glad that you did. I'm actually getting married and I'd like to talk about my wedding. And that was an amazing, lucky opportunity that I wouldn't have had if I didn't take out the time to DM this person. So don't be afraid of actually just messaging people. And I know it comes across as a very strange and very direct thing to do, but you're one person. Don't put this pressure on yourself to go, you know what, they're gonna think it's weird and creepy and like, you know, none of that. By messaging people, you don't really know what conversations you're about to have. And I can guarantee you, people follow you because they obviously like your work. They like what you do. They like the fact that you're putting out content and something that they're interested in. So, of course, if they follow you, they're more receptive to having the conversation with you. I suppose you can DM random people who don't follow you too, like that's also okay, but because someone's already actively pressed follow on your Instagram page, they're more receptive to having a conversation with you as soon as you message them. So literally every day, every hour, I would just, whenever I had 2 minutes, I'd go through my Instagram page, see if I got any new followers, and I would DM them straight away. And although yes, this took a bit of time, I genuinely believe that it is one of the reasons that allowed me to book in very early on one of the weddings I have secured for this year, because I just took the time to say, hey, I'm a wedding photographer in the area, I'm new here, do you need anyone? Let me know. 2 more bonus tips. Number 1, I would say you can go old school and get flyers. I've actually ordered flyers from Canva. I'm a bit embarrassed to say this, and I'm gonna go to every South Asian clothing store and distribute them and be like, hey, I'm a photographer here. I might make a YouTube video that's separate about that, but this is like proper old school marketing / hustling 101, which, you know what, if you've got time, which everyone does, then there's no excuse to go out and do these things. So, you know, good on you. And the second bonus tip is, let's just focus on the photography aspect particularly. But even if you're not a photographer, everyone would have an Instagram page or everyone would have a portfolio of their business or something that they do. This entire switch, this entire transition from one country to another is actually made easier if you already have a portfolio to begin with. Now, because I already had content from Australia that I'd been shooting for several years, it actually made it easier when I was in the discussion stages of wedding photography with people that had inquired, because they could see my experience, they could see my skill, they could see my portfolio, and also from my website. So if you have a portfolio, I can guarantee you this entire transition will be so much more easier for someone as opposed to someone who doesn't, which is why putting a budget behind a sponsored Instagram post is also very important if you know that you have something to show. Bonus tip number 3 is perhaps you can attend bridal events or any events that you know are showcasing suppliers. Now, London is filled with South Asian wedding suppliers, especially within the bridal showcase space. I've attended 2 already, and I've happened to network with a few vendors already, which has been amazing. A couple of weeks ago, I had the pleasure of setting up a stand at Rico Events. An amazing vendor gave me an opportunity to present there. And it was such a great way of meeting clients and potential prospective clients as well, because it allowed me to physically have a presence at a bridal fair to showcase my work. So if you are specifically within the wedding industry, try and see if you can contact or network your way into a bridal fair so that people can actually find you more commonly within your area. Another pro tip that I had was actually really interesting. This specifically goes towards wedding planners. I used to take out time to message wedding planners separately, more than just your everyday people, because those are the people that were directly involved with recommendation of vendors. I remember one of the planners that I had messaged ended up saying to me that the fact that I have a portfolio is great, and I've already sent them my price guide so that people can see and start referring my content and as well as my price lists to potential clients based on the fact that this vendor and I have had a great conversation relationship from just DMing one another and having potential phone calls. Wedding suppliers or event planners particularly are going to be your best friends, especially if you're in the wedding space. But that's it, guys. I'm going to leave you with all those points. Let me know how you go. I think one of the things that you need to be overall is just patient. This is a long haul game and it's not going to happen straight away overnight. But if you do the right things and if you are proactive with it, you will essentially find that you can cut that learning curve and those inquiry curves and make sure that your transition is more seamless than what I had. Now, although yes, I have bookings made through now, which is great, the first couple of weeks, and that to being in winter, for me wasn't really easy. So I had to really hustle as hard as I can to even get the 4 bookings that I made, but it still paid off, and I'm glad that these are the things that I've actually done to ensure that I still have work coming in at the end of the day. That's it, guys. I'm gonna leave you with that one. If you guys enjoyed this video, as always, all I ask is to hit that like button, comment down below, let me know what's your favorite part, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the very next video. Cheers.